in the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. You have before you December 12th, and you have December 12th, and you have January 11th.
So moved.
There's also the one from December, was it December 7th?
I'm sorry, December 7th.
Second.
I'm sorry, 7th.
12/7 and 1/11.
Yeah.
Executive session. Straight ahead, everybody.
Those minutes are in front of you tonight. They were emailed to you too. So if there's any discussion on Karen's motion to approve, and a second by Bill. Discussion on the motion. Okay, sorry, we'll fix that.
He was called Levi.
Okay.
And the vote is,
So all those in favor, if there's no discussion on those 2 minutes, all those in favor, approved? Okay.
Roll call.
A roll call, sorry about that. So, Alan Himber,
see, yes.
Humber, and John,
Yes.
and Betty Tobacco,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Bill Cornell, Bill Coney, yes, and Karen Edwards. Can Karen hear us? Karen Edwards?
She said she'd go in and out of.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we have
That's the
approval.
agenda, we
Yeah.
only have the minutes, we have them all at once.
All at once, that was the approval of the minutes and the agenda. Okay, we're gonna move to public comment, and before I start public comment, Betty has her hand up.
What's all of this?
Okay, so, just pointing out our agenda, we have public comment. The residents of Plymouth can come and make we traditionally have 3 or 4 minutes of discussion from them. And if people are setting up equipment to record things, whether they're part of the press, they have the right to do it. We can't impede them as long as they're not impeding this process. And
What, who, like, what,
Who
is
are
this?
they?
Yeah, like, who are they? And who hired them to be here?
okay, so I guess as chairman of this committee, I can't question anyone in the room of who you are. If I ask this one person, I have to ask everybody in the room who they are and why they're here.
I'm good with
It's
that.
a public meeting. It's a public meeting where people can come and they don't have to say their name. They can just come in and sit down, and I'm not gonna ask them who they are.
They are recording.
Yeah.
I wanna know who's recording.
Okay, well, that's something that.
That's something that I have the right to know.
Well, there are people in this room that are recording things in other ways.
We have a recording, and we understand that the town, the CPC is
If you wanna
recording.
ask these questions, you can. I'm not going to be asking these questions.
Okay.
Who are you? Then I ask who they are and who,
I'm Art Edgerton. I work for Pembroke Town News.
say that again?
Art Edgerton. I work for Pembroke Town News.
Pembroke Town News.
Yeah.
And who hired you?
It's not important.
Yes, it is to us.
To us it is. And who are you?
I'm a citizen of Plymouth. My name is Wes Ennis.
Oh, Wes.
Okay.
So anyways, so I'm gonna go to, that's how I see it, Betty. I feel
I mean,
like.
Pembroke Town News, we're the town of
I
Plymouth.
know, I cannot, I don't think I have the authority to question who's in this room and why they're here. It's a public meeting, they can come in and sit down.
You may not have the authority to question who or why they are here, but you certainly have the authority to question on behalf of every board member here who is recording us.
I guess until the committee forces me to do something like that, I'm gonna abstain from doing something like that. I think everybody should come in the room and sit down, and if they wanna take pictures, if they wanna take video, or if they wanna sit over there and write notes, I can't
I don't
stop.
have a problem with that.
And I'm
I
not
just
gonna
wanna
question
know who they are.
So, anyways, John's hand is raised.
So, this is a public meeting, it was duly posted. This committee, up until 7 months ago, was meeting down in another venue down the street with no recording, no microphones, no cameras, no nothing. And we made the jump, I think post July 1st, to come into this facility at your suggestion because of the availability of technology to facilitate people to participate remotely, whether they be committee member like Ms. Edwards or just the public. So on top of that, so we improved the process of, openness and transparency significantly 7 months ago. But on top of that, if anybody, because it's a public meeting, if anybody wants to come in and on top of that, doesn't matter where they live, take pictures and record, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that.
I need to get his attention.
Yeah, I think that we have a problem here, is the recording as you're talking is just shut off, so.
Oh, I just want to read the rules according to
Oh,
the state.
yeah.
Recording in progress, please do.
I just want to read the rules required by the state. Any member of the public, sorry, it's small. Any member of the public may make an audio or video recording of an open session of a public meeting. A member of a public meeting who wishes to record a meeting must first notify the chair and must comply with reasonable requirements regarding audio or video equipment established by the chair as to not interfere with the meeting. The chair is required to inform other attendees of such recording at the beginning of the meeting. If someone arrives after the meeting has begun and wishes to record the meeting, the person should attempt to notify the chair prior to beginning the recording, ideally in a manner that does not significantly disrupt the meeting in progress, such as passing a note to the chair of the board administrator or secretary. The chair should endeavor to acknowledge such attempt at notification and announce the fact of any of these recordings to those in attendance.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so that is in line to what I expressed. I did have someone ask me where to put a mic, and I said that it shouldn't be on this table, it could be on that podium. And so there was an expression of where equipment went to the chair, and I expressed that it should be put where it's not a distraction. So I don't, so I stand behind my original train of thought where I can't really question anybody other than making sure that their behavior isn't a distraction to this committee. If there isn't any other further discussions, I'd like to move, any other further discussion? Okay. I'd like to move to public comments. You've got 3 or 4 minutes to speak. And
Just people are texting that they can't hear or see the meeting.
well, okay. Karen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now, Bill.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to have a few minutes of public comment. We don't want to engage in an exchange, so if there is a concern that someone has, put it through the chair. The person has the floor for a few minutes, 3 minutes. So if you'd like, Mr. Cirque, just state your name and you can express your...
Richard M. Cirque, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2. I came to this meeting intending to speak during public comment about a matter of public interest. However, at 2 p.m. this afternoon, I was presented for the first time with written evidence that, in my opinion at least, substantially undermines the position I'm going to take tonight. So therefore, I will not speak on the substance of the matter, and I'm going to leave the meeting as soon as I finish speaking. So why did I come here tonight? Because I had notified the chair of my intention to speak about this matter during public comment, and my intention may have been communicated to others. I've never advocated in my life for a position that has, in my opinion, at least, no substantial merit. Credibility is a prized virtue, and I do not intend to squander it tonight. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any other comments for public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just say your name.
Joe Hutchinson, 14 Summer Sweet Circle, Plymouth, Massachusetts. I am here on behalf of my neighbors in River. I have listened to the select board on Tuesday night, and I took Harry Helm's message to heart. Harry said that he was talking about housing as a problem in the nation, in the Commonwealth, and in Plymouth. So we have a problem with housing. And what Harry said was, we're all in this together. That's what Harry said, and I agree with him. Manamet, North Plymouth, Town Center, West Plymouth, Cedarville, all of us, we're all in this together, not just Red Brook. And let's say a quick word about the Act. The CPA, the Community Preservation Act, Community Preservation, are discretionary funds. They were developed, or the Act itself was developed in financially difficult times in the Commonwealth, for strapped towns to use for the preservation of their community character. Open space and historic attributes, housing for all, there used to be poor farms here in New England. So all of those kinds of issues can fall off of the budget table in tight times, and so the Act was developed to provide discretionary funds for towns to use to maintain their character. And the Act has been used here in Plymouth most successfully, and is responsible, for example, for the Fire Center, for the 1749 courthouse, the Plymouth Center for the Arts. I mean, it's we've done ourselves proud with this funding source, and the rationale to create this fund was partially it was external to the general fund in order to ensure that important but not necessarily vital features of a town fell off the budget table in those tough times that I was referring to. So to that end, the Act was created, and the committee and the fund that are formed by it are independent of the administrative hierarchy of the town. And they're managed by an array of elected officials and either appointed or elected citizens. And that's so that the people who are doing the electing and managing that budget have a sense from the town. It also, the Community Preservation Committee makes use of an application and a process which approaches a standard. I have a complaint about the town and standards and appointments in general, but this one actually, I mean, the CPC actually has an application and a process that relies on careful and considered analysis of the facts of an application before it gets to a warrant. Article 16C, I sort of think of as a symptom. I've actually, on December 7th, the CPC earmarked a sum of $4 million of CPA funds for what looked to me like a draft proposal. It was rushed. The neighbors had virtually no time to inspect or make decisions about it. There was a flawed communications model in terms of advising the citizens. And I could go to great length about describing all that, but I won't. I only have a minute or two left.
Yeah, no, we're down to.
Give me one more minute. So town governments are based on trust, and then this CPC process was backwards. Not even a planning board hearing, much less a site visit. The details of it violated the 2008 special permit. The two seats of this committee were not filled, so votes that could have been cast in favor of my neighbors weren't even represented on the board. One member had already made up her mind before the vote began, and another member was more worried about protecting Grantham's profit margins than protecting a community. So I don't trust this committee.
So
Thank you.
That gives up your time right now. You've had your allotted time. Thank you, Mr. Hudson, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any other, I want to finish the public comment, then bring it back to the board. I have someone holding a hand. Again, I need to keep people to, more than 4 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Gave that guy pause.
My name is Catherine Harrelson, and I work for Community Land and Water Coalition. We are a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. I'd just like to make a comment to the, during the public comment period about spring town meeting warrant article number 16B, 52 units of senior housing at
I'm
Redwood.
sorry, it's 16C.
16C.
There's a little typo here. If everyone's looking at their agenda, note that it's 16C we're talking about, which is the 52 units.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
okay,
go on.
thank you very much.
That won't charge you against your time.
The developer, 80 Makepeace, was granted a special permit by the Town of Plymouth Planning Board in 2008 for the development of the Redwood community. Under this agreement, the special permit has a qualification that any major modifications to this development would require a public notice and a public hearing before the Planning Board. It's our position that the application to the Town of Plymouth for funds of $4 million, community preservation funds, constitutes a major modification to the original proposal that was before the town. And we believe that the request for these funds under the special permit require a hearing before the Town of Plymouth Planning Board. Thank you very much. That's the end of my public comment.
Thank you. Okay, I think is anybody with public comment? I think I have one more person. Bill, Bill Abbott, you had your hands raised, is that it? Bill Abbott?
Yes, I think because there's several of us on Zoom.
Okay.
The sound is
Okay, all right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
The chairman is coming across now.
Okay. So if you speak, I think you need to hold these up so people at home can hear us. Okay, we'll hold the little microphones closer. Thank you, Bill. Did you have any public comment? That was it. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so I'm taking it back to the board. Before we move on, did anybody want to comment on? Yes, Karen.
First of all, I'd like to say to the chairman of precinct, what is it, 17?
Yeah.
One does not,
Speaking of a resident,
Okay.
one does not need a full board to take a vote. All you need is a majority. You don't need a full board to take a vote, number one. And you keep saying that like it was illegal. It's not illegal. And I really think that Red Brook people have been led down a rabbit hole. First of all, it was clear to me last night that they did not understand how government works. And I was quite surprised at certain people, because there's no leadership there. We have to get along as a town. Red Brook moved in, the people moved in, it's a village concept. The Makepeace and Red Brook are trying to do the best thing for the town. What is it, 46 people? Elderly, 52 could get in under good housing rules, and now it seems to me that because you didn't like the first location, you don't like the second location, you just don't want it. Just be honest about it. You don't want anything there. I have listened to a couple of people from Red Brook that say, yes, we do like it. We do understand what it's all about. And we'd like it, we'd even like more. But they're rare. And instead of fighting this town like you are over nonsense, I'm really surprised at you. And I think that you've got to come together as a community. That's who we are. You don't live on an island. And you're giving your people the wrong information.
Okay,
So although, Mr. Hutchinson and others say that we did this inappropriately at every turn of event, it was dependent on the approval of the planning board and any other board that had to approve it. So we didn't put the cart before the horse because it was all based on those approvals. Obviously, I am a strong supporter of our seniors who we have promised that we are going to help them age in place. And that is the crux of this entire 16C article. So I don't appreciate the rhetoric behind we are doing this, you know, in an improper way, because we are certainly doing it properly. And I am hoping that at some point we all do get together, because I don't know if you folks realize that the people that are on limited income, they are reaching out, and as one of our selectmen has said it in recent times, they're scared. And although I no longer sit on the select board, thankfully, they are still reaching out because they are actually being taxed out of their homes, and they don't know what to do. And Red Brook was 52 units, and it was a place to go. And what people don't seem to realize is that the $4 million, it's not an additional tax. It's a CPC tax that we pay that's fixed every single year. It's not an additional tax. It's nothing like that. And I think it's disingenuous for people to claim that it's $4 million more on our taxes. We have to take care of our seniors. And that is really the bottom line of all of this. So to claim that the CPC themselves are doing something backwards is actually just a lie. We are going through the process. We are waiting for the planning board and other boards that have to vote on this. And Red Brook has been more than patient with what the process is, because if the planning board turns around and says no, then it's all done anyway. So we are not doing anything that is illegal or is inappropriate or anything like that. It's the way folks do business. If we can get a meeting ahead of what we are doing, it is all based on what the final appropriation will be. So I personally don't appreciate saying we're going ahead. It's quite apparent that I support the project, because it's quite apparent that I support our seniors that are afraid they have no place to live after this next tax hike of 6.9%.
Okay, so we do have an agenda here, and we need to work through it. I don't want this to become.
Yes, but.
Hang on, let me finish, I'll leave it to the board. We're now at 6:30, we're 25 minutes behind schedule here. I allowed the public comment. Karen, you can talk, obviously, but I don't want people to be sensitive, because we have a certain amount of business to get through, and I don't want the public comment to become a situation that's distracting us from the work at hand. We listen to the public, and then we move on to our business. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. All right. So public comment is over. I just wanted to talk about special town meeting. Special town meeting. The warrant will close February 2nd. Lynn Barrett has asked us to approve an article for 3 potential articles for special town meeting. They're all borrowing authorization reduction articles. So we would leave it to Lynn on the structure, how she wants those done. So she asked us to vote one for Pilgrim Hall, one for Stevens Field, and one for the Spire, potentially. She doesn't think she's gonna need it, but she thought that we should do it just in case. She can always withdraw it later, in the process. But she was asking us, to, vote that contingent on her recommendation on the final amount based on
Any
some,
motion, no second.
all those in favor? Discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, roll call, Alan? Yes. John?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
And Bill? And Karen?
Yes, there's this.
Karen, thank you. Okay, this segment of the agenda is, we always do this, once we vote on articles and we're sending them to town meeting, we put on our agenda an update as we make our way through the different boards and committees. So I will give a brief update of each article. I know 16, again, on your agenda it says 16B, but it's 16C, Redbrook, 52 units. We have to, underneath you'll see, we need to change the map to 115 and the lot to 135 because the original article had the map and lot at a different location as a result of discussions that the applicant has had with neighbors. They've moved it to another location, so council has asked us, the town staff has asked us to take a vote to correct that. We're not rediscussing the application. We're not reconsidering anything other than correction on that. But I just wanted to make note that one, it's not B, it's C, and it's here on our agenda.
Well, the lots are 1348. There's no 1349. It's minor. Right. It took me an hour to figure out what the real bylaw was.
Sorry. Okay. So it's 1348. So this is this. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Hello. I don't know. Speaking right.
It's not working now.
Okay. Hang on. Let me just speak with it.
You want this one?
Hit the speaker, Bill.
This one here.
Yeah, the full speaker.
Now,
Go back on.
you have to hold it.
I did.
Yeah.
It's on. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so then we do every once in a while. I think this equipment is a distraction. This equipment is a distraction. All right, so so let me just take up 16A, just to let people know that 16A, the Housing Plymouth Area Coalition, 26 suites there. That is been approved by the Board of Selectmen. It was discussed at the FinCom. There was a question that came up during the Selectmen's meeting about the subsidized inventory count. This town staff checked on that, and because there's no lottery associated with these units, town staff found that it doesn't count towards the subsidized inventory, so there isn't a count there. And there was another email that came in from the Community Preservation Coalition. I called the coalition. I did not hear back from the coalition. I called again today, did not hear back from them. But they did have a chance to talk to Derek, and Derek did provide us, and the coalition provided some language about shelters and restrictions, deed restrictions at 30 years. One, I would have hoped if I had a chance to talk to the coalition, and we had talked. By the way, I did reach out to Kate, the attorney, with this question also.
Kate.
Kate, and I did not get back. I got an email back from her, but I asked her to call me so when she made the calls, that we could make it very, very clear to the state, this is not a shelter. People are not coming at 5 o'clock at night, and coming in unannounced, and staying overnight, and then leaving in the morning. This is transitional housing. It's temporary housing. Everyone that's going into this unit at 52 Industrial Road has to be qualified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Department of Housing, the Executive Office of Housing and Community Livable Conditions. That agency qualifies people. So there's a qualification process. So we are going to be asking for a restriction. It's in perpetuity. The owner of the property, who owns the property, fee simple interest, can give us that restriction in perpetuity. and they agreed to do that. And so the coalition did put out some information that we're only getting 30 years. We can ask for more than 30 years, and they can give us for more than 30 years. We just can't take less than 30 years. So I think that we're gonna look into that further, because I think it needs further investigation, but it's clear on the count. But there is still some work on how we would accept the deed on the property. So I just wanted to make that clarification, because I know that the committee did get emails from the town manager on this subject matter, and from David and John.
So you're saying now that it's clear in the count that the count is 0.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so building off of a few of the public comments, Mr. Hutchinson and others, I supported the initial article because it was coming with 26 affordable. This community is under siege. I disagree with Mr. Hutchinson when he says we have a housing problem. We have too much housing. We don't have enough affordable housing. So a month or two ago, we listened to 3 articles, adding up to quote unquote 84 units. One of them was a traditional project that we've supported in the past, and the other 2, this one and the Red Brook one, were obviously boundary pushing on 1 or 2 variables outside of the box. And talking to a few of my colleagues today on this committee, when the vote was taken to support this article, it was based off of we were getting 26 units in return for a $3 million investment, which is significant. And that changes, that was a game changer for me. And it exposes, Mr. Hutchinson also references trust, you know, it exposes a flaw in the process. So when you look at the application form that we have, it references the amount of units. And on the application in multiple places, it says 26. I would suggest that we have to improve that application so that now, following that, it says how many units are in this project, 26 or 100 or whatever it is. There has to be a subsequent line that says how many of the proposed units are going to count towards the community's affordable housing inventory. Okay, I've never seen this happen before. And that would have impacted my vote going back the 4 to 6 weeks whenever we took that vote. So in the interest of openness and transparency, I was very disappointed in that one. It is difficult because I want to help people that need help, but this is, again, some of the same arguments that are being made against the Make Peace development with respect to almost a year of the CPA money's being used up. This is the same thing, but we're getting nothing in return. Okay, so I have a colleague on the select board, Mr. Canty, that believes that we can get to the 10% hurdle where we can say we can refuse any incremental 40Bs. We have 3 to 5 massive 40Bs in the queue that are going to further just exacerbate the problem in this community. The strain on services and the lack of affordable housing. And I just believe that if some of these come to be, and we push another 1,000 units, which is distinctly possible, you know, the differential of 26 units might be that make or break that will put us over the 10%. And it's unfair to Ms. Giovanetti, you know, the entity that she represents. And this is something that has to be cleaned up at this committee level. And obviously, how we go about that is amending the application, but also, I see Mr. Brindisi, I believe there, is getting staff support in the saddle as quickly as possible.
Okay, hang on. So we received an application from the applicant, and the Community Preservation Act does not require that the units that we fund approved by the subsidized inventory count by Mass Housing. But we do have it throughout our application. We say that We would like that a goal of ours is to make recommendations where units are going towards this count. We've done that for 23 years. We've made these recommendations, and many of them have, the vast majority. There have been some others that we have made recommendations at town meeting that did not meet the subsidized count. Now, we can easily, if someone wants to adjust the next application cycle to have that identified clearly so no one misinterprets anything, because it doesn't require it, and I don't think there was any shortcoming of this committee or any shortcoming of an applicant. It was clear to everyone that they were providing this. If people have questions of John, just let people finish. You had your opportunity to speak. You have to allow other people to speak and not interrupt.
Sure.
So I just feel like it's important to note that this committee in the next application cycle can easily make an adjustment with a box that they're required to put a number. But I refer back to this other idea about this circumstance and about these 40Bs that you speak of, that we don't want to put a family and a child in a box. If they don't make that box, they're not going to get that bit of a number. That we have a crisis in this community with seniors and with working people, but we also have people losing housing in Plymouth with families. People have the right to shelter. Children have the right to shelter. This is about sheltering children in our community. And if we can't get that box with the subsidized housing, is that the box that's a priority, or is the priority the child in the shelter, in a home with their family, in a bed, and a roof over their head? By the way, this place is an educational center that's going to train families to break the cycle of dependency when it comes to housing. So when we look at housing, we have to look at housing in its entirety. We have to look at places like Redwood, places like Court Street. We do that, but we also have to look at the emergency level to get people in a safe situation where we can break the cycle of dependency and move them into more traditional housing. And people in Plymouth are suffering from that event as much as seniors, so it's something that we have to pay attention to. I don't want us to deteriorate as a committee to these boxes. If you don't check that box, we're not going to do that type of housing, because there's a crisis on that level too. I think we should respect all components of the housing crisis, from whatever seniors, people struggling, working, trying to pay the rent, and people that have gone into a crisis situation. So I think it's important that we make an adjustment on our application, that we see that number, but I hope that's not the only number that we make a decision on when we look at affordable housing. Alan, excuse me, John, going to sing it up first, and Alan.
On the night we took the vote to approve the article, did you know that we were getting 0 credit for any units towards affordable?
I my earlier comments were staff in council contacted the state. I did not have a chance to speak to either one. The Commonwealth has determined that there's no lottery, so there isn't any credit. I think I'd like to, I've made my own overtures to the housing entity to see what is their, what credit we actually get for these units, because we will have a deed restricted unit that's meant for affordable housing. So I'm, looking into it. At the time, I thought we were going to get credit for at least one, but
the discussion was that night was 26.
26.
It was 26.
I do.
So you had a responsibility that if you believed otherwise, you should have shared that with the committee. And why didn't you do that?
I guess the question you're asking is, did I know how many units? And I would have to say, no, I did not know how many units. I thought that we were going to get credit for the unit. I just knew that as the case.
So at the time,
I'm assuming that everybody read the application like I did. It had come to the similar conclusion that this is a question being asked. The question did not come up. How many units is this going to accommodate
it most certainly
No,
did.
it wasn't assumed it was state, 26 units.
I said 26 units. When we described the complex, how many families would be accommodated in the facility? We talked about the 26 suites, the 26 units. Go ahead. Alan and then Betty.
I wouldn't let Bean County get in the way of helping people out. I don't know if this goes to the inventory or not, some arbitrary goal of 10% or something like that. You have families, not just a person or two. You have a family on the street that needs it, like yesterday or today. Go ahead, about bean counting and getting away with greater good. Betty?
We have a fiduciary responsibility to this country. I mean, I would have supported it if it were 1 or 26, but the point of the matter is that we were told that it was 26 units. And then in the process, we found it was 0 units. We cannot deceive the people of this town to say it wasn't 26, because that was the entire discussion of this application. And I feel horrible for Miss Jovanetti, because it went so south last night at FinCom. But the point of the matter is, it is our responsibility to say the actual fact of what is proposed, whether it's 1, whether it's 26, whether it's 0. This is our responsibility as people on this committee. And we have to provide that information to the taxpayers. Because $3 million, although I agree we have to take care of families, it's our responsibility to make sure that they have the information. So I don't like the way this whole thing went down. I mean, Bill, you've got 23 years of experience, and you remind us of that all the time. If you knew it was only 1, we should have known it was only 1.
Like I said before, hang on. Now, if you want to make this into Bill Cohan and I'm the problem with the 26 units, you can do whatever you can to make that the issue. The application was received by this committee. It said 26 units. You all had the ability to do your individual due diligence to see how it hit the different goals. I did not state at the time that this was going towards the count.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You absolutely did. And you know what? I don't want to split hairs over it. It's just, it is our responsibility to the taxpayer to make sure that they have all of the information, not just Bill's information, who knew it was only 1 or 0 unit, but the information that we have to provide to the public. And I'm not trying to say this is Bill's fault, but in fact, it kind of was.
Okay.
So
it's my fault. I apologize and take full credit for that mistake.
But that's not where we're looking at. We now have a situation that there's a homeless shelter that was like down in flames with the Advisory and Finance Committee, and all of us are saying, how did that happen? What happened that we thought we were gonna do 26 units, and good, bad, or indifferent, the town needs that amount of any amount of units to go through, so we're not like being killed with the 40B process. And like I said, I feel terrible for Sue, because I know how much effort she puts in it, but we have to be certain and provide the information, whether you know it or not. We need to know it. So
going forward, we didn't get the votes of FinCom. We had some votes, not all the votes, but 6 to 8. 6 to 8. We've had worse odds at FinCom and gone on to town meeting. We've had and passed at town meeting. So our job will be going to the caucuses and being very clear about how many units we're getting in terms of the inventory count. So there's no
which is 0, correct?
Which is zero. But what is more important is the type of housing we're creating under the Community Preservation Act to cover that demographic. And we'll be clear in the future when we go to these boards and committees. We've been clear. When the selectman asked the question, we deferred to council to get clarification. I did not state at that time that it was 26 units. I thought we were going to give credit for at least 1. And then when we went to FinCom, that's what I did at the selectmen's meeting. It's important to know when I was asked that question at the select board meeting, I made it very clear to them that I deferred to council on that matter. And they came back with that answer. And I made that known to the FinCom last night, the status of that question.
But you didn't make it known to us. We are the board that pushes these things forward. And you know what? I would have been a whole different dynamic if this board knew there was zero. Because now it looked, I have to say, Bill, it looked a little deceptive.
There wasn't any deception.
And
There's no such deception on my part, the applicant's part, the applicant didn't. We don't have that box in there. We'll put the box in there in the future where we can all see it. Run it by council to make sure that that's the case.
Whether that was the intention or not, that's the way it looked, and that's the reason why it failed. And we don't want that for our homeless, our transitional. We are so desperate for housing, and people are looking at personalities of who's supporting what and not looking at what actually the needs are of the community. Our seniors and probably our homeless people that have children and families are horrified right now at the actions that were taken last night. And we did not look like we had it together. That's the problem. We want to push these things forward. We want to be able to use CPC funds for it. And I honestly feel horrible for both of the articles that were tanked. And they were tanked.
All right, well,
because
if you want to put on the agenda a critique of your chairman's performance at these delivery, you can put that.
You're making it personal. What it is that we need to do what's right for the community, not Bill. It's all of us, because this reflects on all of us. So do I want to put something on the agenda that updates the application? 150%. Let's do it. But this isn't about what Bill feels or how I feel about Bill.
So, Betty, you're interrupting me. I'm not able to finish. This is not about Bill. I didn't say it was about Bill, but you're obviously upset with me about.
I am not upset with you. I am upset.
And Betty, you have to let people finish. This isn't really.
You didn't let me finish.
No, you interrupted me. So I just at a certain point. This is not about.
It isn't.
I know that, but the concern that you have about how applications are presented to this committee, how they were presented to the select board in FinCom, does in terms of leadership is something that I have to address. So just for the functionality of this committee, I'm going on to Alan and then John based on when hands were up. Alan, you wants to talk.
I was calling for a timeout. Let's move.
All I'm gonna say is the application provides housing for 26 families. What more than one want? That's gotta be good, right? Forget the past.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Karen, did you want to say something? Aaron, you're muted. Yeah,
I've been following it a little bit.
Yep.
And it's still new information tonight, and I just think that changing the application would be terrific, and I think that we just need to move on and be very careful for next time. That's all.
All right, thank you, Karen. Okay, moving on to the next applicant is the
Wait a minute. We're all trying, we all are, and I know that. But, what is it, 3 million, 4 million? It's a lot of money. I do want to know from the beginning all the parameters. I do understand the need housing. But I also feel the presenter wasn't forthcoming. So that, to me, really is a thing. I didn't expect that. Yeah, and I think that they're just not used to being told no. Sometimes you gotta say no, because we are in charge of the taxpayers' money. And I listened to Alan, and Alan is right too. We need housing. But I want to be told from the very beginning, it has to be that way. Or else I can't make decision that's right for the town of Plymouth. And I think you agree with that. I know you do. So I think John's point is valid, Betty's point was valid. We're all trying here. But I want presenters to know they better come in with the facts. Because I will not pass anything that I find out that's not.
Thank you, Karen. I think we've allowed enough discussion on this matter.
And
I'm
one
going to
more
ask us to move on to the next point.
I have just one comment to make. We're all in this together. This isn't about Bill or anything. We are all in this together. And I want you to understand that. And I mean it wholeheartedly. We are all in this together. And we have to move forward as a committee that wants to do the best that we can for our community. Period.
And I will end it with, I hope those words are as truthful as you can be, because if we are all in this together, we're going to have each other's back. We're going to be honest with one another and work with one another and communicate with one another.
Exactly.
And so that's how that works. And when a committee deteriorates into a circumstance that's difficult, where people aren't talking and not interacting, it becomes problematic. So I hope those words are carried out in the future, Betty, because if we're all working together, we can address these issues more effectively. So let's move on to the next update, and that is for 16C, and that is for 134 Court Street. That's 6 units at that complex. And the article was presented at both meetings. It's pretty straightforward. We've worked with the applicant on 2 different occasions, so this is the 3rd project. I think most people understand how this works. He basically is doing something very similar to what the grant group is proposing, building the building, maintaining the building, and restricting the units, but we're buying down the cost of those units, those 6 units at 960. The board seemed to be very faithful to this model, and we have great confidence in the applicant, so that one seems to be moving forward nicely. 16D, which is the recreational category, town brook trail enhancement, that has found full support. David Gould has been able to walk us through that process of what the scope of the scope of the renovations will be. Also walk us through the process of what grants he might seek and in what fiscal years he can begin work and what money he will need, so that money can be expanded out over a period of time in relationship to work he's doing and the grants that he's seeking. So we do have that. The bordering authorizations are all fine. They're both of them for Pilgrim Hall and Stevens Field. Lynn has presented them, and they are been approved. I have a question from the board member, Karen. Sorry. Go ahead. Karen? Your hand was up.
Yeah.
Hey, did you want to say something? You want to say something?
No.
Okay. Yeah, there was a hand up there, we thought. But that's gone now.
I think it's the cursor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the cursor. Cursor. All right, so both those articles seem to be doing well, and finally we have our administrative article that is seeking, has all approved, so things are good on that end.
Bill, can we discuss Redbrook? Can we go back to that?
Yes, so Redbrook, the 52 units at Redbrook.
Yeah.
Yes, so I guess we have to take a vote here tonight on the mapping of the lot. So if someone wants to make a motion to take a vote on that, we can have a discussion in the motion. Because we weren't really reconsidering any of these articles or rediscussing these articles. We did have some comments that the committee wanted to talk to a clarification on Industrial Parkway. But meantime, we do have to take a vote to change the map and the lot. If you want to make a motion now, we can have a discussion on the motion. And we can talk about these
then
things.
I can ask the question. I'll make a motion
To approve
to approve.
the new map and lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, discussion on the motion?
Yes, I have some questions. Where are we now with what happened at FinCom last night?
So, Red Brook is moving forward with the Grantham Group to continue this project.
Well, can I hear?
I mean, right now, we're having a discussion to the board,
Yeah.
not, so I don't
Yeah.
wanna, like I said, I don't think there is any need to further discuss. The committee has taken a vote, we've sent this to the select board has voted, FinCom has voted, now we'll go to the caucuses will discuss it, and we'll go to town meeting, and then we'll vote on it. So we will adhere to that process, and the applicants and the committee will go to the caucuses and present this to the 163 town meeting members. Like I said before, sometimes you go before FinCom. FinCom is not, they're a very demanding committee, rightly so, because there's a lot of money at stake, and their job is important. They do a good job at that. Sometimes you don't have the support, but when you go to town meeting, by that time you can clarify some of these questions, and you have a better chance of passing the article. So the applicant wants to continue, and I think this committee should support the applicant in the direction they're going. All right, any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we take a vote on that adjustment of law, map and law. Alan?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
And Eddie?
Yes.
And Karen? Bill? Yes. And Bill? Karen, can you hear me?
Yes,
Karen Edwards?
yes.
Karen Edwards, good. All right, so, last week I provided the committee with a document of closing out some accounts, going through the finance department. You received a list of projects that needed to be closed out. And so I want to know, did everybody get that memo? Did you look at that memo? Okay. And
These are mine.
let me see. Yeah. So this is, I'm sorry. So these are articles. There was a memo that I gave out last week. And does everybody have that memo from the last time we met?
No.
Okay. I got the list. Okay, so I'll walk you through it if you'd like. You should have received this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, I've looked into this, and there was this one is the first on the list. You can write this down from 2007. Article 16D is $45,900 sitting in the account. Now, we had worked with the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority, and they were taking tax title properties in Plymouth, and they were renovating it into affordable units. We took a property on Murray Street off of Locust Street. We did a property on Old Sandwich Road. These were properties that were taken and that the Redevelopment Authority took and renovated, and we put deed restrictions on them. But there was one place at 10 Alpine Road was had a difficulty clearing the title. So this is one that the Finance Committee wants to know what we should be doing this. I reached out to Plymouth Redevelopment to see what their intentions were on that title. Before I close out that account, I'd like to get them to say that we have no intentions of pursuing this unit because there's a title issue. So I think we should hold on that one until we hear from the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority on whether they plan to pursue that tax title clarification that they have to do. So my recommendation is that we don't take any action until we hear from the Redevelopment Authority. There is, again, there's an article here from 2016, 2011 for historical preservation for the Sims House. Right now, I know the town is going through a process of putting it back up to RFP to find an occupant to run the property. There is exterior work that was to be done under the renovation. It wasn't done. It needs to be done. plan was to do it at some point when they knew what direction we would go in. I would leave that account alone. The town has funds to address those exterior issues on the building where it comes to rot and painting. So it was under the final phase. It was to be painting of the building. That didn't happen. The plan was that it was to happen in the future. Hoping, so I advise the committee not to close out that account until we know what the town ultimately wants to do with the building that they currently are paying, looking for a property, someone to take over the property management of the building. It's $14,878.91. I'll resend this to people if you didn't see it. There's another article from for the Science House, and that appears to be $49.13. I think we can close out that account. That was a bill to be paid to the Monahan Group. So 2011, Article 16, pay 2, open space. I think that we can close out that $49.35, and we can take a motion, we can take it in a group. Again, the Science House portable units, I would hold on that until we know what the town wants to do with the affordable units. And then on the first, the parish state glass windows, that should be closed out because that project was done. And there was a demolition that took place when we bought the property on Taylor Ave. We demolished it. It's $2,697.23 left over from that. We need to close out that because we acquired the building, tore the building down, so we met our obligations under Article 16C. So I would recommend close out on that article. The National Memorial Meeting House, 15 cents. Article here for 15 cents. We close out that one. The Town Bell restoration, that's to be left. That's for recovering some costs associated with the restoration of the bell. We can close out that account because the bell has been restored. There's no need for recovering any money for that. Land on, this is an important one. In 2020, Article 9D, purchased land off of Morgan Road. This land was next to the Wildlands Trust along Long Road. It went down to the state boat ramp area. It was a trail connecting piece. That property was, we were hoping to buy the property at $80,000. The owner of the property decided to sell to someone else. And so that should be closed out. I did talk to the Wildlands Trust because at one time they were going to try to add to that 80 to bring it to 100 to see if we could get the buyer to sell at 100,000 because it only appraised for 60,000. So we were getting it quite higher than the appraised value. It's an unbuildable piece of land on Morgan Road behind Wildlands Trust, heading down to Oren Line, heading down to the state boat ramp. There was a little piece there that we were hoping to acquire to buffer the trail that takes you towards the state forest. That one, after talking to the Wildlands Trust, and talking to the gentleman who purchased the land, seeing if there's any interest in selling to us, he's indicated no. So we shouldn't be holding $80,000 in that account. We should vote to return that to the CPA to be allocated for other purposes. There's 19 cents left over from an endowment fund for the Wildland Trust and the conservation restrictions that we do. When we give out conservation restrictions, there is a burden of enforcement. The Wildland Trust takes on that burden. When they accept a property, they take on an endowment that's put into a fund. That fund generates money to be able to pay the staff to go out and make sure that the property is being utilized the way that the restriction has been written. So for some reason, there's 19 cents left in that. What I'd like to do is, if it's okay, to send around an email to the recommendations of the office, resend this document, and then include what I'm recommending that we wait on, and what we vote on, we can take it up at our next meeting. There's no rush here.
Okay. What's the total?
I was just
The total that we, right now, what I'm recommending is approximately $83,000 moved over back into the CPA fund. So that would be $3,000 less borrowing that we have to do in the
And
future.
no movement on safe harbors.
That's already been closed out.
That's been closed.
We already voted to close that out, and we're using that money for one of our projects.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to, I'll do that to the committee. I'll send that back around. I'll send around my recommendations. We can vote on it next meeting. Old business and new business. As I indicated, there's the Roxy Cahoon property, which is right across from the Massive Compound Preserve. There is an owner of 10 acres of land, more or less, that go from Roxy Cahoon Road right down to the water. We are talking to that owner to see what they might be interested in doing in terms of selling. They're still discussing it amongst the family about what they could do. Right now, I think what they're thinking about is a bargain sale to the town. They really are committed to seeing the land preserved, so they're seeing what the family can do to accommodate move forward. Black Cat Road 2, as we know, we voted to send it to town meeting. We had to stand down because the owner wanted to wait for another. Actually, the owner is willing to sell it to the town, but they wanted to hold off on this cycle. So they stepped down a month ago. But I keep it on the agenda because I don't want people to forget about it because it could come back in the fall. There was an application I submitted that was submitted to the committee that I gave out to everybody. It was St. Catherine's Park. You all got that application. And it indicated that the owners of the park wanted to sell an interest in their real estate. That is the development rights. I did indicate to the applicant, do you have a price in mind? They said no. We thought we would do an appraisal through you. I said that we need to, before we begin an appraisal, we have to know what the scope of the appraisal is. What are you selling? Are you selling the park fee simple for the town, or are you selling an interest in the real estate or the development rights? If you do sell the development rights, can you sell it? So I pose these questions back. I'll revisit that now again with them to see what their answers are to those questions, because it's hard to move on this application for a future town meeting right now unless we want to know what the value is to what they're intending to sell.
I have a question. You and I were there when that whole thing happened, when they bought St. Catherine's Park, remember? Yeah. And didn't they take a 99-year lease?
I don't know if it was a 99 land. I'd have to go back and look at what Drake Hyde did. It wasn't something that went through this committee.
No.
It was something that was separately done between the private owner of the land
Yeah.
and a private nonprofit.
Right.
But I do know that the entity accepted the ownership of it with an endowment to take care of it.
Yeah.
My understanding is the endowment is running out. It's about 2 to 3 years from not having any money. I was surprised to hear that because I thought the endowment was set up to generate a certain amount of revenue per year to owe it and take care of it. So we have further questions for it, but what I would recommend is I go back to the group and ask for a clarification on what interests in real estate they're selling, so that we can have a further discussion around an appraisal process based on that.
The thing of it is, Bill, they promised that they would take care of that park, you know, and I think to put that burden on the town now is, I don't know, I gotta think about that very carefully.
Well, that will eventually be part of the decision-making process of whether or not we entertain the application. But I think that between now and then, we should do everything we can in regards to our due diligence to find out exactly what this application means. We just had a discussion about an application and we felt like we didn't have all the information. I'm suggesting that we go back and get clarification in writing from them about the status of what they're planning to sell us, so we can make a decision based on that. Okay. I did get a call, and just to let people know, I got a call from an entity at Gurnett. The town has decided to decline the ownership of the land in the lighthouse. An organization has applied for ownership. There is an entity that is made up of people on the Gurnett. They have an organization that's currently looking at the bug light. We call it the bug light. Duxbury calls it the Duxbury light. It's the red and white lighthouse in the harbor. And they are required of applying for funding from us to take care of the building. So the lighthouse is eligible for CPA funding. And so they called and inquired about this possibility. I sent them an application and said, feel free to fill it out, because every time someone calls us and inquires about CPA funding, I always encourage them to fill out the application, put as much information in there as possible, and get it to the committee so we can have a discussion. But I just wanted to alert people to the people that are applying for membership will be coming to the committee looking for funds for the preservation of the lighthouse. Yes.
So going back to the site visit, I talked with Mr. Deasy, town manager of this community, and David Gould, with the department head. That entity made it clear to the 3-person delegation from the town of Plymouth that they were controlling that site to restrict access to the public.
Oh,
Okay? So
yeah.
I understand if you didn't mention it in your phone call, William, but I have no intention of investing one penny in that lighthouse out there. If they're not opening access to that 7.8 acres, the taxpayers of this
Yeah, they're getting our money.
you've got to be kidding me.
So, yeah, so if obviously when an applicant comes forward, the conditions that we put on that application as a condition of going to town meeting, because we'll be asking for access. Obviously, we have to get a historical preservation restriction. That's the requirement of the statute. But obviously, in this circumstance, we would be making a note of our interest on that subject matter. I agree wholeheartedly that that any funding of the lighthouse would be coupled with the public being able to go and see the lighthouse. So obviously, every historical preservation effort involved is Plymouth has had a public interaction component. So this obviously you can't ask for CPA funding to preserve the building, but keep the building away from the people. So it'll be something, we'll see what happens. They have the application, we haven't received anything, so I just wanted to alert people to that. Other new business, I haven't heard from anything. Maybe John can talk about this. I know that the town manager was looking for staff support over the committee of recent chairs, the CDC to divide their time. I guess it was reported to the select board that they had identified someone that was willing to do this work, and they were offering that person a position, and they would know more on Friday.
That's what I was told. They made a job offer to somebody. They're just waiting for a reply.
So we'll wait to see how that goes. And then going on to the
New business.
sorry, yeah.
You know, I know this is probably not gonna be popular, but I think we need, as a committee, we need to have a discussion about the Science House. It's languishing over there and good old man that.
So we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Please.
Okay. And then earlier tonight we were talking about some account balances. There is money that was set aside for the exterior restoration of the building. And under phase 2, which is the final renovation of the building, there was money that was left over identified for painting, puttying outside of the building. That didn't happen. The money sat in that account, and so earlier tonight we were talking about that closeout that was suggested. What I'll do is I'll put it on the next agenda so we have a discussion on that and ask them to identify all remaining account balances for the work that was going on there. Because the work that came in under budget and on time, we identified that a portion of that would eventually go to the painting and the putty and the painting of the building and dealing with some of the drainage issues around the building protection.
14.
Now, if we decide, let's just say we decide that we're gonna, where does that money just go into back into the CPC fund?
Yes. but you're never going to sell it for what you put into it.
Oh, that's a guarantee, but you know what, it's languishing. So,
So we will put it on the agenda, we'll look at those account balances, but this committee cannot make a recommendation. Our committee has jurisdiction over making recommendations of the use of the CPA funds. The final decision of the signs house is going to have to be the town. Look, we don't own the building, we utilize our funds to restore the building. The building is owned by the town of Plymouth, the town meeting. Really, we want to have a meeting about what funds are left over that are under our jurisdiction and then what to do with those funds in relation to the building. I think that's an appropriate agenda item. But if we're going to put the signs house on the agenda, just kind of have a free-flowing concern about let's sell it, that really doesn't belong in at this meeting. I would think that we reconsider that idea, that we specifically have an agenda item to look at what the account balance is of the signs house. Because I think that the decision of what to do with that building really lies with the public, the town, the select board, the town meeting. John and Karen, did you have anything up?
So the town manager is currently engaged with a local nonprofit with respect to that building. I would qualify this as being in the Hail Mary range. Okay, and we're getting to the point, building on Betty, we're running out of options, and if this Hail Mary doesn't work, you'll probably, it could be months down the road, see an agenda item on a select board meeting on this topic.
Okay, all right, so then Karen and then
So can we give that money to the town if we decide to do any fix-up of the signs before they, let's say the people want it and we just give them money?
So we wouldn't give anybody any money, the money doesn't get awarded to them. What would happen is the money is there for the building committee to go out to bid to have someone pay that bill.
Okay.
So that was the understanding that the money that was left over would be eventually utilized by the building committee to finish the job of phase 2.
So if the town decides.
They could do that, but in the end, that money is in the control of this committee. So, we would have to note that they're going to use that money for that purpose.
Yes.
In the end, Lynn Barrett is always reminding us when the town meeting takes an article and they vote on it to do something, and those bills come in, it's her job to pay those bills. The building committee decides to go ahead and pay that with those funds, and Lynn thinks it's appropriate. She has indicated that she thought it was, that event could happen. But it doesn't hinge on us because the action of town meeting is over.
Yeah, I get it.
so my thoughts were that seeing that we are in such an awful position with affordable housing, and if I understand that it's under the jurisdiction of the select board, but having a conversation, maybe turning it all into affordable housing or selling it to someone that will do affordable housing, I think that's a conversation that we should have. Because getting it with a 6.9 budget deficit or 6.9, what our taxes are gonna go up, we need to put as much back on the tax rolls as we can. So affordable housing, instead of just sitting there languishing empty, except for the 2 units upstairs, I think that maybe, a support or recommendation from this board where it was, the CPC project is something that maybe we can talk about.
So whoever owns the building has to accept that restriction of affordable housing. So whoever has it, by the way, the land is open space under recreation and conservation restrictions. So that's a public comment. So the building sits in a public park. So if you're selling the signs house, but what about the public park? Now we get into a situation where you sell open space acquired with the CPA, you have to have a no net loss with the Massachusetts state constitution. That you can't just dispense of public land meant for conservation. You have to now go find similar land or suitable land to that acreage, or even more. So we do have a couple of moving parts to, if the building was to just go on the auction block, as you have indicated, the town manager is entertaining.
I'm not saying that
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
So,
John was saying that there's a current,
Hail Mary.
there's a current possible tenant, nonprofit, but if that doesn't go through, that you might see an entity on the, but you might see a proposal before the board to dispense of it. And when you dispense of that building, you have to adhere to those stipulations. So anyways, but very painful, because I will say something about the Science House, that it was recognized by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Secretary of State's office, Bill Calvin's office, and its Department of Historical Preservation. It's a very innovative use of CPA funds, affordable housing, office space, community space, public park. We use all components of the CPA at one site. And for years that it had an organization that was willing to do it, it was functioning at a high level. The pandemic made it a difficult time. So it's all very painful. I think everyone was hoping for the best. Anyways, on to town meeting, post-town meeting, just to give you a quick infill. Article 9, affordable housing habitat community. The grant has gone out to Habitat. They're moving forward. They're going to have a upcoming ribbon cutting. I'll let the committee know when you can attend that. The Affordable Housing Authority, they're putting out a bid for Oak Street. That's what they're involved in right now. They're also finalizing their grant with the town. The Center for the Arts has engaged the town on their grant. Pilgrim Hall has engaged their town on their grant. This is the information that I'm getting from Kate, the attorney for the town. She's giving us information at different times. I think you've all seen it. She sent out her emails about the status of these articles from previous town meetings. The office, the open space off of Rocky Hill Road, which is Rocky Point Road. That property has been acquired and closed on. The property at Rocky Pond Road, Grassy Pond, out by Great South Pond, that has been closed on. So we own both of those. I did have a chance to talk to David Gould about Rocky Pond Road, building a carport where you can pull off and get out and hike the property. It's a really nice location. It's very close to the road, so David's looking into that, getting some estimates of what it would cost for fencing and signage. Also, I've spoken to David about Rocky Point Preserve off Rocky Hill Road. He is in the process of getting some estimates on fencing and reconfiguring that parking area so people can pull off and hike, and signage. So I'm waiting to get back some renderings from a sign company for you guys to look at. Look at the sign that will go up at these locations. But Dave is working on the parking area, the fencing. He is moving forward with a gate. Currently, he'd like to. Does someone want to talk?
no, I'm pointing to my name on there, so I'd like you to move up so I can see the conversation.
Okay. So just to.
I'm sorry, I just noticed.
We'll pull that down in a second. But just to let the committee know, Dave Gould has engaged a company to put a security gate. When people pull down there, we don't want them driving all the way out into the property. We just want them to pull down, be by the road, and leave. So David wants a gate. I have a bill here for $5,000. We'll talk about that later. We should pay that invoice out of the admin fund for a gate. And how do you do this now?
To the right, to the right. You're gonna click on that gray bar, vertical bar on the right.
Go up. Just click on the bar and go up.
Maybe we read the same application. I don't know. So I just wanted to make it known that we want to get that date. Hedges Pond Recreational, Dave Gould is getting the final lead testing and getting the demolition worked on. He's working on that. Thinks he should have those down depending on how the weather goes. And Stevens Field, the ballroom, obviously Lynn has adjusted based on town meeting fall vote how it's in Stevens Field with the ballroom authorization. She's still operating from available funds. She hasn't gone out for any short-term borrowing. So this article we have a town meeting is going to help keep that from happening as long as possible, because we do have the part to pay off. I think it's $3.2 million. So we're working towards that. Just let people know there was a site visit. Everybody was invited to a site visit at the site. We got a first-hand inspection of the construction of the site by David Gould. So Stevens Field is moving along. That will conclude my update on that. If there's any more public comments at the end of the meeting, public comment. You can state your name.
Steve Lyden, Precinct 17. I want to thank Betty and Karen for educating Mr. Hutchinson. I can't believe that you would think you needed a full board to be able to vote. He's chairman of a committee. He's been on enough committee. He knew that. I also want to thank you for giving him the information, Betty, on how his community meets and how he would not violate any kind of rules about not having approval from the planning board and the rest of the boards on Redwood. He's been perpetuating this information at our last caucus and for forever. At our last caucus we had on Monday, it's null and void because Mr. Hutchison didn't bother to use the town Zoom, so we had people on Zoom who couldn't attend the meeting. So all the votes we've taken are null and void, and the meeting, he's wanting another meeting soon. And I will definitely bring this up, the information that you gave him tonight, because there's a lot of misinformation going around in this caucus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing any other public comment? Seeing and hearing none. I would like to, as I mentioned, under new and old business, this bill, someone wants to take a motion to pay it. It's
Motion.
an invoice for the gate.
Second.
Do I have motion by Betty, second by Karen? Discussion of the motion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Alan? Yes. John?
Yes.
Betty?
Yes.
Karen
Yes.
is, and Karen Edwards. Karen Edwards is nodding, thumbs up.
Yes.
Again, thumbs up. And Bill? Yes. Okay. And Bill is, so, we'll pay that invoice. I did include just one other thing. I included in your packets tonight a memo that people should look at. It really is helpful because what Lynn has done is broken down the estimated renewable CPA revenues for fiscal year 2025. And then down below, she starts to go through a process of showing you how 60A housing coalition what this means in terms of how she approaches, how she's going to approach it with the borrowing. And then she goes down to B and C and she indicates how she plans to pay for basically by town meeting. So I thought this would be helpful because it does give her some indication of how she wants to approach the special town meeting in that article we voted on earlier tonight. These special articles. Did we vote on that?
Yes.
So we have voted on our 3 articles for the special town meeting. And this financial sheet that Lynn is providing will give us some indication of how she plans to address the costs associated with any town meeting. Any other discussions? Hearing none, I can take a motion to adjourn. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
And that is John and Karen.
Okay.
All in favor?